Okay. So to continue with this horoscope, we then have Mars, who is in the sign of an enemy. Mars is in the sixth house, and some people will say that malefics do well in Upachaya houses, and even in the sixth house, because they have a kind of rough or combative energy to them. And those houses need that kind of energy. Certainly, Mars is unusually positioned from the sixth house in that it will aspect back into the Lagna, and in this case, it owns the Lagna, so that becomes a factor of strength for the Lagna. And right, and we have big combat combinations in this horoscope. I mean, although Mars is in an enemy sign, and when a planet is in an enemy sign, people are likely to not be fully comfortable with the themes represented by that planet. Still, this person is going to have, a big willfulness, a big drive to succeed, to overcome obstacles, etc., from the position of that Mars. So Mars is again aspected by Saturn. So Saturn always brings delays and obstacles. Mars and Saturn do make a yoga, but there's going to be some roughness to whatever success this theoretical person achieves in life. After Mars, we look at Mercury. Mercury is in the sign of a friend. It's with its dispositor that helps strengthen a planet. It is with mutual friend Venus, and it is aspected by a very strong moon. So Mercury is sitting quite prettily in this horoscope. And we would expect this person, there is a tie into Mercury because the Lugna Lord and the Sun are in the sign of Mercury, which makes Mercury, and then Mercury aspects the moon. So Mercury becomes a very influential planet in the horoscope because Mercury influences the Sun, the Lugna Lord, and the moon. And this person has the Lugna Lord with the fifth Lord of the discriminating intellect in the sign of Mercury. So just looking around, one thing we're going to say is that this person undoubtedly will have quite a mind, both an intellectual mind and an imaginative mind, because of the strength of the moon. So this is, someone that they don't really have too many writing combinations from an initial glance, but, this is definitely a person with a very big mind. Good mind. Then from Mercury, we move on to Jupiter. Jupiter is in the eighth house, which doesn't affect the house placement. Other than factors of Digbala don't affect how strong a planet is. They will affect the meanings of the planet. So having the lord of a good house go to a bad house tends to afflict the meanings of that good house. Having the lord of a bad house go to a bad house tends to kind of provide some minimization around the bad house meanings. So Jupiter is in the sign of a friend. It is not aspected. It's not retrograde. The sun is only 2 signs away, so we know that Jupiter is moving fairly rapidly at this point in time. The closer a planet, an outer planet, is to the sun, the more rapidly it's moving in the sky, which weakens it. It's a factor of weakness in a horoscope. So Jupiter's just all right, not super, not terrible. It is in a 6-8 relationship with the moon, which is how what is called a Shakata yoga is formed, a wheel yoga, where there can be big ups and downs in the life, although technically a wheel yoga is canceled if moon is in an angle. But in practical experience, the wheel yoga may still operate even if the cancellation ends up mitigating to some degree how big the downs turn out to be. After Jupiter, we have Venus. Venus is in its own sign in an angular house, again influenced by 2 benefics. So Venus is also doing very nicely in this horoscope. Venus also forms what is termed a Malavya yoga. So in terms of yogas, when any one of the 5 true planets is in an angle or trine in its own sign or exalted, that alone forms a yoga, and each yoga gives different results which pertain to a high expression of that planet's energy. But a Malavya yoga is the name. It pertains to a region of India that was famous for its artisanship. So a Malavya yoga tends to enhance people's artistic ability. After Venus, we look at Saturn. Saturn is in the sign of a neutral, and it is aspected by two malefics, Mars and Ketu. So the aspect of multiple malefics tends to destabilize a planet and its meanings. Now we do have to factor in that the aspect between Saturn and Mars is mutual and they form a yoga, but there's still, when we look at the significations of Saturn alone, Saturn's inherent significations, we're going to expect to see some weakness. So one place you can go with that immediately is, oh, Saturn is the 11th lord and it is aspected by Mars from the 6th house. This person is going to experience conflict in friendships. That's one small example. And then we look at the nodes, and they do say that the nodes, particularly Rahu, functions well in the signs of Mercury. Rahu is in his own nakshatra. Ketu is in Sagittarius. So the nodes don't, from these two constellations, well, the constellation doesn't present any particular problem for them. Ketu, again, is influenced by multiple malefics. So right away, we would think that this baby might the father might not be with the mother, and or the father might vanish very early in the baby's life because the 9th house is very afflicted and the 9th lord has gone 12 away to the 8th house, which is a house of loss. So just from looking at the strength of each of the planets, you begin to really delve into the horoscope.